All right, yeah. Yeah, smoked turkey specialist. That's what I'm here for. And, you know, we got to do a little bit of role play. So thank you for the introduction. Let's give Sam just stepped out, but let's give Sam another hand. Maybe he can hear. I appreciate what Sam had to say, and the thing that resonated with me is that the points, the information, the ideas that Sam shared with us, you know, are universal. It makes no difference whether or not what profession we're in or what we're doing or how we're moving forward. Those are great ideas. In fact, what you're going to hear for another 45 minutes or so are some of the same ideas. Again, financial planning. I'm a certified financial planner. I'm actually an overnight success. Anybody else been an overnight success? 35 years in the business, and I've almost made it. Y'all continue to keep me in your prayers. You know, if you don't mind, you know, so if there's anything at all you can tell me that will help me, I would appreciate it. So 35 years, financial planning. So I figure that we all gathered today, you know, wanting to sit around and talk about money and talk about stocks and bonds and mutual funds and, you know, betas and coefficients and alpha. The most boring things in the world. You know, so we're not going to do that. And I'll answer any questions you may have. And I only have about 45 minutes, so there's a lot of information to cover. I'll give you a couple of bullet points, but make sure, please, if there's something you can think of that you would love to know as it relates to financial planning or insurances, etc., please, well, I'll ask you that a little bit later on. But here's the reason I'm here. But before I tell you that, why are you here? Somebody speak up. What are you doing in this class right now, giving me, this class, the people that are in this room, 45 minutes of your time? Somebody tell me. You want to learn. Be prepared. You want to grow. What else? Networking, yeah, meeting people, absolutely. Anybody else? Anybody else? Here's why I'm here. Here's why I'm here. I want you to leave today with one question, just one question that you did not arrive with when you came into the classroom today. So I could talk and lecture. You know, for 45 minutes, I could tell you one thing after another as it relates to financial planning. I can give you the foundational things you need to do as it relates to financial planning, and I'll be glad to do that. But for it to be valuable to you, I would love for you to leave today asking yourself a question, and here's why. What we know about the mind is if we make a statement, a cut and dried statement, what does the subconscious mind do with that statement? Does anybody know? It either accepts it, but usually it rejects it. Like, I'm going to be a whole lot better tomorrow. If I tell myself, I'm getting up at 5, putting on the running shoes, and I'm going to start exercising. What does my subconscious mind say? You ain't going to do that. So my mind just goes right ahead and strikes out the idea of getting up and putting on running shoes, because my mind, my subconscious mind, which works how long? How long does the subconscious mind actually operate? 24 hours a day. Your subconscious mind is keeping you breathing while you're sleeping. Your subconscious mind is telling you to exhale and inhale. Your subconscious mind in many instances may be dreaming. You may be thinking of some things. There may be something going through, you know, in that subconscious mind in our head that will be reinforced the next day, or we'll get up with different thoughts, different ideas. As a result, the conscious mind only works, and I would tell you while we're awake, but the conscious mind doesn't work real good while we're awake. Would you agree? I mean, we have to be careful. We have to battle what goes on in here, because what we know is the battle takes place in here. So instead of giving specific directives, it is much, much better for you and for me to approach each situation with a question. And the question that I want you to leave with today is your question. What is it that you want to focus on? What is it that you need to have accomplished? And it can be anything. And an example may be, how can I better myself physically? How can I find ways to get up in the morning? How can I make myself again in tune with longevity, taking care of my children and my grandchildren? Is there one thing I can do? Is there a possibility? Are there ways? So instead of making the statement which the conscious mind or the subconscious mind completely rejects, is I will ask myself the question, what are the ways, how can I, and is it possible? Because what we know is the subconscious mind, if we ask it a question, begins finding ways to answer the question. To find ways to answer the question. So I want you to leave today with a question. Is everybody going to be here for tomorrow? Who's not going to be here tomorrow? Tomorrow. So we will dig into some more things tomorrow morning. But today, I want to ask this question: What's the number one need in our country, in the United States of America today? What's the number one need? And I know there's a lot of different questions, but I'm going to take you on a different path. Hopefully, what's the number one need? Money. What else? Anybody else? Love. Love. What else? Money. Love. Number one need, security. Time. You know, the currency of life is time, not money. Everybody you and I know, if given the terminal diagnosis, would trade every bit of what they have for what? They'd trade all the money, they'd trade all the stuff for just another year to spend time with their family, their loved ones, their spouse, or their grandchildren. So the currency of life is time, not money. So with those things, I agree. But I believe, as we begin, for the sake of this argument, for the sake of this presentation, the number one thing we need today in this country are leaders. We need leaders. Sam talked about that earlier. We need leaders. Is there not a famine of leadership in this country? Is there not a famine of people standing up and saying what needs to be taking place? You know, so the number one thing that I believe we need are leaders. How does that relate to financial planning? Well, the thing is if you're making money, earning money, and moving forward, you are leading, hopefully, as it relates to the financial needs of your family. How does it relate to barbering? It relates to everything. We need leaders. We need leaders. So I'm going to give you a few ideas, I believe, because what we do not have are leaders. I'm going to skip ahead on one of my points. Are the politicians going to lead us? They're not going to lead us. Why? And if you're a politician, you forgive me, but politicians are professional liars. Are they not? I mean, tell me, come on, are they not liars? And the thing is, you know, a politician, you know, or somebody, again, that's a professional liar, what are they able to do? The thing about a professional liar is they can tell you the truth in 5 different ways in order to deceive you by telling you what may be the truth. Have you ever experienced it? Yeah, sure you have. Sure you have. You know, so what we're saying is it's not going to be politicians that are going to move us forward. It's going to be leaders. It's going to be leaders in our shop. It's going to be leaders in our school. It's going to be leaders in our family. And leaders have to be ready to stand up and lead. So here's the acronym. Write this down. If you got a piece of paper, let's write it down. We're going to tell you what we've got to do. Lead. Is this financial? Absolutely. Does this have anything to do with money? You better believe it. And I'll cover those specific questions as we move forward. So when you look, we've got to lead. What do leaders do? Number one, leaders listen. I told Sam after his presentation, I'm going to be doing the same thing, Sam, you did. Talking about the stuff that really matters. So I took a bunch of notes from Sam, you know, because what he was saying is an absolute fact of what we've got to be doing. And I love the idea. So leaders listen. And the difficulty is this, and we talked about it a bit, or he talked about it. Have you ever sat down with your significant other, or have you ever been to a restaurant and watched people sitting around the table just using the phones? They don't smile. They don't talk. They don't talk, do they? Have you ever done it with your own significant other? Yeah, I have. Have you ever been scolded for it? Maybe so. Are you hard-headed like I am, and perhaps you still do it anyway? You know, so what you begin looking at is listening. Because what we have to do as leaders is we got to know what's taking place. We've got to know what's happening. We have to know what the thought process is. Sam even mentioned when you're asking questions, when you're talking, when you're developing a rapport with a potential client or a new person in the shop or down at the store or in the grocery store or having just a few seconds at the checkout line, being able to say something and hearing what they're saying and making good notes and knowing what's taking place. We'll get into that a little further, but leaders have to be able to listen. Leaders have to listen. What else do leaders have to do? They have to engage. Have you ever been accused of listening but not hearing? Again, my wife is up in the room. If she were down here, she'd be shouting and waving her hand and telling you, hey, I'm a professional at listening but not hearing. We've got to be able to listen and then be able to engage and find out what's going on. Because with each and every one of us, Antonio, we can talk and we can talk for a few minutes. We can sit down. You can tell me a lot about you. I can tell you a lot about myself. And then we can begin digging just a little bit deeper to find out, why we believe what we believe. Why do we take this particular stance? Why are we entering into this business? Why are we growing in this business? How do we take people that are new, the young people? If we're not going to lead in this room, what hope do our young people have? They're not going to get hope from Washington. They're not going to get hope, from television. They're probably not going to get a lot of hope on their iPhone or their iPad. It's our responsibility, your responsibility. So who are leaders? We're all leaders, but we have to embrace. So we're going to listen and we're going to engage by asking what? Questions. Tell me why you feel that way. I mean, I'm glad to hear, it's interesting, that you made this particular statement. Tell me why you said that. That's a good question, isn't it? I mean, why do you think that way? What would cause you to believe this? Or by what is your philosophy or your theory to come up with this particular answer? That's very interesting. So we're not engaging and smacking people around or shooting down ideas or trying to destroy those things that they're thinking. What we want to know is if we're listening, we want to be able to engage that person, my children, my grandchildren, your grandchildren, your friends, engage them in conversation to where we understand what's taking place. The next thing we're going to do, we're going to listen, we're going to engage, but then we're going to appreciate. We're going to appreciate. What is this? This is gratitude. This is being thankful. Makes no difference the answer. Makes no difference what's going on. But we've got to be able to appreciate what we've heard, how we're engaging. We've got to be able to be thankful for situations. Now, you were talking a little bit earlier, Mara, as you were going through saying, look at some stuff that's happening out there that's not good. It's not good. People, trespassing in the profession. Do you appreciate people trespassing in the profession? You shouldn't. You shouldn't. I mean, I'll tell you this, as if I were to call any of you up or call anybody, up in the state of South Carolina and say, I'm an attorney, or put me down as an attorney, would that be right? No, because I'm not an attorney. Would it offend the Bar Association or the attorneys for me to say I'm an attorney? Yes, it would. Would it be against the law? Yes, it would. Would I get caught? Maybe so, maybe not. Maybe not, but what Mara was speaking of is we not only are listening, engaging, appreciating, but we have to stand up and say, hold on a second, that's not correct, that's not right. So our profession, just like your profession, we are self-policing. We're self-policing. In my profession, like your profession, if I see somebody doing something wrong as it relates to the securities business, I'm bound to turn that person in. Why? Because they're bound to turn me in. Why? Is it because we don't like them, or because we're mad at them, or because there's another situation? No, it has nothing to do with that. It's because we know what's right and wrong. We know where the boundaries are. We know what the licensure is, and we've got to step up and do that. What's that got to do with appreciating? When you see people that are trying to trespass on your profession, can you be thankful? Yeah, you should. And here's what you ought to be able to say to anybody. I appreciate you putting the poll up. Show me about your credentials. Man, I appreciate you again wanting to be one of us. Show me how you got to be one. I am grateful that you think enough of the barber pole to be painting it on your brick. Tell me this. That's an opportunity for us to be able to discuss, get somebody else into the profession, get somebody else interested in being a leader like we are a leader. So we have to appreciate it. It makes no difference what's happening. It makes no difference that we can find gratitude and thankfulness in almost any situation. And it doesn't matter what it is. I'm thankful that the fact that you felt like you needed to alter this, break this, do that, and then what we've got to be able to, then we can address what the true issue is. And what the next thing is, Antonio, is we move forward. So if you're going to lead, you've got to listen. And what a wonderful profession. What a wonderful profession. To answer your question, you may be thinking, how in the world did this guy get down here speaking to us Why? Number one, he's not very good anyway. Why is he doing it? How did he finagle a slot more in the presentation? Renee Patton, you know, is my barber, and I love her to death, and we have a wonderful conversation. And we've been having wonderful conversations for a number of years. I enjoy going. I try to be the first one there in the morning. And to be the first one in the morning, I have to be there before 6 a.m. Because if I'm much after 6 a.m., I'll be 3 or 4. And if I'm second or third or fourth down the line, you know, I've got to leave and get to the office or either put my name on and come back later, because I enjoy talking with a leader or somebody that listens, we engage, we appreciate. So that's why I'm here. Working with Renee, knowing Renee for a number of years. But at the same time, Morris, having a message that absolutely works, it absolutely resonates, and it absolutely matters to each and every one of us. So we've got listen, engage, appreciate, and last, what do we have to do? Somebody has got to decide. And you got to move forward. Somebody's got to say, well, this is the way it's going to be. And you got to move forward. I overheard some conversation. You know, when I'm out of the office, this takes place, or when I'm out of the shop, this takes place. Or, you know, what are we going to do next? How are we going to make sure we ensure, you know, that the boards, that the states, that the people we know and love, that we interact with, how are we going to make sure that they're doing or they're holding our profession to the highest standard? Somebody's got to decide and then make a move. We can't just sit around waiting on somebody else to decide. I mean, if you're a leader, and it doesn't matter where it is, whether it's your home, whether it's in the shop, if it's your own practice, if it's in the school, makes no difference. Somebody's got to decide. You're the leader. If it's in your car or you're not making decisions, yeah, so we're listening, we're leading. That's the biggest need we have today. We got to listen, engage, appreciate, make a decision, and move on. Will you mess up? Yeah, you will. You will. So we'll write another book about the whole idea of all the stuff we messed up doing, you know, in the last 55 years and all the mistakes that we've made. Won't that be a great read? I tell you what the read will sound like. It'll sound like every one of our lives. Man, I shouldn't have done that. I knew better than doing that. Mom and Daddy told me all my life not to do this. I should have known, but I did it anyway. So what we know, and this kind of spills over a little bit into tomorrow's presentation, but you know, I've probably learned as much from my bad decisions as I have my good ones. Have you? I mean, I've done some stuff, holy cats. I'm not even going to tell you. Nobody needs to know, but I'll tell you this much, humanity, we've all done a lot of the same stuff, and we knew better. We knew better, but what I'm able to share with my children or my grandchildren is, here's one thing Papa's telling you: whatever you do, remember this and don't do it. I'm trying to lead my children, my grandchildren, my Sunday school class, my choir, the people I know and love, the people I associate with, the lady as we check out at Walmart, as we go to get groceries. This is what leaders do. That's what you've got to do. And we can't help it. So once you decide, you move forward. When you mess up, don't spend enough money, you spend too much money. It makes no difference. We're making progress, and we're learning and understanding what the next step is or what's going on. Now, I'm going to give you a couple of other items. So we've got to be leaders. That's what we're talking about today. Tomorrow we'll be talking about true wealth and what is true wealth and can you build it. And it's a different vein of thought, but it all kind of ties together. What Sam said, what we're saying today, history, looking at history's lessons and those things that we know and love. So let me ask you this question. Is everybody aware of excuse me, that's too much. Equals O. I was trying to put let's see, it's a big E. How you like that? The big E. E equals O. Has anybody ever heard tell of that? E equals O. What is E equals O? E is the event. Does the event always equal the outcome? The event never equals the outcome. The event never. In fact, the event never equals the outcome. The event, here's the right one. E plus R equals the outcome. What difference does this make? Does anybody in here have children? Anybody got kids? Anybody got grandkids? Does anybody have significant others? Have you ever had anybody, come in, or somebody just kind of rain on your parade? You wasn't expecting it, and all of a sudden somebody dropped the bomb on you, the event took place. It don't matter what the event is, you know, what the event took place, whether it was the children, the grandchildren, somebody we know or love, telling us something, then what is the R? The R is our response. It's always the response. Now what we have to be careful of, and what we have to take care in doing, is not let that be a reaction. Have you ever had a reaction? Oh yeah. You know, so again, you expect things to be done a certain way. Have you ever walked into your shop, into your place of business? Have you ever gotten into your car after you let a family member borrow the car? Have you ever walked in at night expecting something to be ready? Whether it be your spouse or somebody ready, we got to go. You know, you wanted that event to be a certain way, it didn't happen that way, and then you reacted. We call that the red R. The red R is bad. Reaction's not good. It's not good. We don't want to react to anything. What we want to be able to do is respond. As leaders, we have to respond. We have to respond, which means regardless of what the situation is, regardless of what's taken place, you know, we've got to be at a point where we are able to appreciate, engage, listen, and help that person decide. You ever got aggravating news from a child or a grandchild? What's the number one thing we want to do? Usually is react. Usually is reacting. It may not be the right thing to do in reacting. Responding, giving it some thought. Appreciating. Have you ever had a child or a grandchild? And then, Tony, I've done it myself. So we're not talking about just children and grandchildren. We're saying we have events taking place, even events that we are the, you know, we're the catalyst or the instigator, and then we react. And you know what reacting is? I mean, we get aggravated, we go into the office and you fire everybody. Have you ever went in and fired everybody? Why don't y'all all just get your crap and get out of here? I mean, here's the deal. We've talked about it for years. You're supposed to know what's going on. And again, don't try that at your house. I promise you. Your significant other, your husband, your wife, whoever it is, they ain't going to like that. Get your stuff and get out. They will not appreciate that. You know, our staff and the people around us don't either, but have you ever wanted to? Yeah, you've wanted to. I've wanted to. Maybe 30 minutes ago, about an hour ago. You know, maybe yesterday, or, you know, we're trying to figure out what's going on. It's not working the way I want it to work. And I have a reaction. But if we're responding, then we can always work on the outcome. We'll touch on that a good bit more tomorrow. But remember this, red R, green R. You know, red R is react and stop. Hold it just a second. Wait, just don't react, but respond, and you can make a big difference in the relationship. What about the people that you're working with? What about as you're building those relationships? What as you're trying to build customers or clients? What about the client or the person, again, that has a complaint? What do we generally do with complaints? Well, if you don't like it, why don't you just take your head down the road? Let them cut your hair down yonder. That's exactly right. So you just kick the can and get out of here. We don't care. One thing we're not doing is this. The thing that we always do is be gracious and find appreciation and gratitude regardless of what's taking place. Thank you for that observation. Thank you for telling me that this was this way or this was that. You know, you think of, we talked about, you know, self-patrolling, self-policing, you know, making sure that places are clean. The young lady mentioned, I tell them it's got to be done. I mean, you should. What we do is we say, I want you to know, I appreciate you, appreciate these things. Here's something we've got to do to make things a little bit better, and here's why. Here's why. Because of the people, because of all these reasons, because of the cleanliness, because of the sanitation, because of this, and that, because we're professionals. We're expected to. We're expected to. I mean, we're a profession here. We want it to be exactly right. So what you begin looking at is finding a good way. Thank you. Thank you for the complaint. And that's a hard thing to do. Do you ever get a complaint? Has anybody ever complained about anything around you? Yeah, I mean, man, that happens. And what do you say first? If you're not careful, like I said, we react. But listen, thank you for telling me. I want to do it better. Do you feel like, can you give me some insight? What would you have liked to have had happen? Sam mentioned something about, you know, when people leave, you know, do they pay attention to the fact that you've listened to you have listened to what they told you, where you can call their names the next time they come by? Do you know what's happening with the families? Do you know what's taking place? There's a book I would recommend to you. It's called Raving Fans. And if you're going to market a practice, and you want people, or a shop, you want people coming back and you want them coming regularly, what you have to have is what Mara and Sam talked about, was word of mouth. Well, if they go out of your place raving, man, that's the best experience I ever had. Man, I loved that. Man, this was great. What are they going to do? They're going to tell somebody. But on the other hand, if they leave and it wasn't like it should have been, it wasn't as clean as it needed to be, it wasn't timely, whatever takes place, what are they going to do? They're going to tell somebody that way as well. Raving fans. Figure out what you've got to deliver for somebody to leave your place and say, wow, I got to tell my friends about this. That is the best, whatever it was that I've received, or it's a pleasure being here. The wait is long. You know, that's okay to have a long wait if you're with friends, you're surrounded by interaction, good things are taking place. Doesn't hurt anything. I think I've got, what, another hour and a half? Yeah. How long? About 15 minutes. I'm supposed to be done about 1:45. So what you look at is the event never equals the outcome. It's always the event, you know, plus our response to that particular event. So let's look at a couple of other things. As we touched on, there's all kind of financial ideas or items that we'll get into a little bit later on, and we'll cover several items for you, and raise your hand if there's something in particular, you know, that you would love to talk about. But what is your question? We've talked so far. The one thing I want you to leave with today is a question. You know, what can I think of, or how can I make it better? And it may be something along the lines of, how can I double productivity? Is there possible ways for our patrons, our clients, our friends to leave and tell people about it? Sam touched on, and I will not, the marketing aspect. When I was talking with Mara and with Renee about content, you know, with a lot of things you can look at as it relates to content, from the marketing to a lot of other items. Marketing yourself, making sure that everything is just right. As we move forward, I'm going to touch on 2 or 3 things money-wise, if that's okay. Does anybody have any questions as it relates to money or financial matters? Any question at all? Anything you can think of? I'm going to give you just a few seconds. I'm going to tell you some things that I'm faced with regularly. Here's financial planning in a nutshell. So if you want to know what the grand scheme is, everybody needs to do these 3 things or understand. Write this down. Number 1, living too long. I'm giving you 35 years of practice here. This is it. Number 2, dying too soon. Number 3, disabled along the way. So whether you're seasoned practitioners, whether you are students to the craft, makes no difference. That's financial planning. If you'll answer these 3 questions, you'll have a financial plan. And I would almost tell you, you've got one already anyway. It's almost like a will in the great state of South Carolina. If you don't write one, the state writes it for you. So if you don't say what's happening, well, they've got something wrote for you. I would submit that's not the best thing. So if you begin looking, you've got a financial plan. Well, let me ask you this. How well is it working up until this point? Good, bad, okay, makes no difference. I'll tell you what we find a lot of times nowadays is people are just letting financial matters just happen to them. And all of a sudden they're finding themselves without really addressing, you know, these several issues. Living too long. As you think about living too long, what is that? That's your retirement money. If you're going to live to be to the ripe old age of 95, who's going to take care of you? Who's going to take care of you? Is the government going to take care of you? No, they're not. You know, and whatever little bit of Social Security I'm able to get, hopefully you're able to get, that's not enough anyway. So if you're going to live too long, and that's our plan, that's why subconsciously we don't say, man, I'm going to exercise till I drop in the morning. The one thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put on my tennis shoes. If you get up and put on your workout shoes, what will usually follow after that? Flopping back into bed and sleeping for 2 more hours. Everybody knows that. I mean, that's the automatic, but at least you got the shoes on. If you pop up and decide to go do something, you are ready. So when you begin looking at living too long, that's your savings. So the thing that we have to look at here, and we'll dig just a little bit into this one, is you have to save, you have to make yourself save money or put money aside somehow. Nobody's going to do it for you. How many of you are expecting a multi-million-dollar inheritance any day now? If you do, I hope you are. I think that's a wonderful thing, and it's okay. It's a different set of questions, but you know, the facts are a person that either inherits it or hits the lottery, how long does the money last? 18 months. It doesn't matter the amount. 300 million, 300,000, 18 months. The rule is the money's gone after 18 months. Why? Because we hadn't asked the questions. We hadn't went back to being leaders. We hadn't talked about what matters. We hadn't made decisions that need to be made. We hadn't made decisions. A lot of times people win the lottery. What do? They hide out. Why do they hide out? Because they don't want everybody in the world being kin to them. That's why. Because as soon as you win $300 million, you'll have cousins you've never heard tell of from all over the world wanting to try to take your money. Everybody wants to take your money anyway. But when you start seeing that take place, here's the thing I would say to you. If you're going to plan on ever quitting, and we should be looking out to the future, painting that vision, deciding exactly what it is we want to do. We need to be setting aside just a little bit. Makes no difference our age. $25 a month, $50 a month, $100, makes no difference. We have to practice the art of self-discipline enough to make ourselves do something as is positive this way. The other thing we have to practice doing, which is hard to do, is we have to say no. We have to say no. We can't have everything. We especially can't have everything at certain ages. I mentioned to you an overnight success in 35 years. And people, can you kind of relate to that? 35 years. And what I find is this, is my children or grandchildren, they want the same things me and Mama's got after just getting started. Have you ever seen that in your own families? Yeah, so what do? They go out. We tried to tell our daughter, take the money, honey, we'll give you 10 grand or whatever the number is. Save the money. You don't need an $800 or $900 dress, and nowadays that is just nothing. When you're spending money on weddings, etc., take the money. Honey, you don't need a $7,000 bedroom suit. Who in the world needs a $7,000 bedroom suit? Nobody that's thinking about the future. And did that turn out good? No, that didn't turn out good. It don't turn out good. You say no. You scrimp, you save. You can't start a shop, generating $100,000 a year day one. It starts and you gradually build to it. But I love what you do, because what you have the opportunity to do is you affect lives, going all the way back to talking about being leaders. And the other thing you can do for your children and your grandchildren is make sure you're putting a little bit of money aside. Make it hard to get to. Tell yourself no. Yeah, I want to go get some more stuff. And doesn't matter what the stuff is. The stuff almost never satisfies whatever it is that we're talking about anyway. The stuff don't work. Has it ever worked? Getting all the stuff. Has anybody practiced retail therapy? I know a lot of people that practice retail therapy. I can go outside and go buy something and I feel a whole lot better for a short period of time. Living too long requires us to say no. It requires us to make ourselves do something that we may or may not like, which is save some money. The next one is dying too soon. Dying too soon. I hate to tell you, something you already know. And when you talk about this, it's not generally a situation where everybody starts high-fiving one another, but there's people much younger than us that have already died too soon. They stepped out of here. My dad died too soon. My dad died at age 53 with pancreatic cancer. Can you believe that? That's horrible. Man alive. And I remember so I was with him, and we won't talk a lot about that, but we've all experienced that kind of thing. Dying too soon. That's your life insurance. If you're check out of here quick and you love anybody, somebody's going to have some money when you go. I'm going to tell you what kind to get. I'm going to tell you how much here in 1 second, because there's a lot of information out there, and what I find in the financial world is there's so much, white noise. There's an opinion going in 50 different directions. So what we have to do, and it goes back to the whole idea of listening and engaging, we have to be able to cut through some of this stuff and figure out what it is we need. Dying too soon. If you check out of here quicker than you thought. Now here's the deal. If you know it's coming, meaning, there's some physical issues, or it's too late by the time you're told you've got heart disease or diabetes, and those things, again, were in our family. You've got to take care of the dying too soon part now instead of later. So when you look at dying too soon, there's only two kinds of life insurance. You buy it or you rent it. Terminal. You said you buy it or you rent it. So when you start thinking about all the stuff that's out there, just keep in the back of your mind, you buy it or you rent it. Almost everything you buy or you rent. What about a house? If you're going to buy a house, do you pay more money to buy a house? Sure you do. Is your payment higher? Yes, it is. What else do you have? Maybe a down payment. But what do you get when you buy a house? Equity. Equity. Real simple. The other thing you have is once you bought that house and that payment's set up and you own the house, nobody can come back and say, you're going to pay a little bit more money for the house. That's buying. Renting, on the other hand, is you go to the landlord. The landlord says it'll be $800 a month, and whatever your number happens to be. What does that landlord tell you? I'll let you have it for $800 for a year, but next year we're going to tick it up just a little bit. It might go to about $825 or $850. What are you doing? You're renting. Is that cheaper than buying? Yes, it is. But what do you not get over here? You don't get any equity. You don't get any equity. So what should you do? Well, I'd say buy if you can afford to buy. Why do people rent now? Because they can't afford to buy. That's okay. So there's not really a wrong answer. It's just making sure that you've got enough. Well, how much should you have? Here's the thing. When you start thinking about the life insurance needs, and I'm telling you all this, we don't cover any of this stuff tomorrow. When you start talking about life insurance, no matter what you're making, you need at least 10 times your annual income. 10 times. So think about it. If you're generating 50 at your shop, you need at least 500,000. If you're generating 100, you need at least $1 million. And buy it, the younger the better. The younger the better. So it's always 10 times, and very seldom is it ever any lower. Well, I only need just a little bit of money to put me in the ground. Well, if all you want to leave your significant other, your family, your children, your grandchildren is just 10 or 15 or 20,000 to put you in the ground, so be it. What I'm talking about is what you're doing, which is marvelous, is your money machines. Y'all are money machines. You do know that, don't you? I'm a money machine. You're a money machine. So what your machine's doing is it's generating money. So what you have to do is if the money machine stops, how much money is the family going to lose? 10 times is the very minimum. If somebody in your family's had an accident, and I say you had an accident and been killed in an airplane crash with a major airline, they don't use 10 times. It gets much higher. It's 20 to 30 times. Why? Because how much are you going to make if you're, just as an example, if you're doing 50 grand a year the next 10 years, how much are you going to make? You're going to make at least 500,000 if you don't make another nickel or it don't go up or things don't change. So I plan on working at least 10 more years, and if I'm generating X, and if I check out of here on the way home tomorrow or the way home from work Thursday, Friday, what is my wife and my children and my grandchildren going to miss if Papa's not here? It's the same way with every one of us. Well, I just want them to have 5,000. I don't want my wife to be rich if I check out of here. That's a ridiculous answer. I've heard it for 35 years. The fact of the matter is my wife's chances will increase a whole lot if I leave her $3 or $4 or $5 million cash. You know what she gets to do then? She gets to pick the dude she dates. She don't have to take whoever comes along because she ain't got no money. That's the whole idea. I want her having enough money where she can be selective and she can get somebody wonderful as I am next time around. She knows that, and that's okay. That's the way it's supposed to be. You should be the same, in my opinion. But if you don't give a rip about your wife and your children and your grandchildren, have about 10 or 20,000 if you can find it. It'll put you in the ground, or they can just kick you over in the river somewhere. Or maybe you'll go down in a crack. They'll never find you. You won't have to worry about burying you, all that kind of good stuff. If that's kind of your mindset. 10 times. Now, so when you buy it, when you rent it, or you buy it, what I do personally, and you may want to know personally, I have a combination. I've got some permanent that the landlord can never go up on. I can keep it till I'm 89 if I want to. I can keep stuffing money in. The wonderful thing about buying is just like your house. If you overpay on your payment, what do you get more of? More equity. You pay it off quicker. You get to start funneling money elsewhere later. So I've got a combination of term and permanent. Because I think, for me, that's the best way to do it right now. Because what you'll find, you'll have business needs. If you're setting up a shop, you're buying a shop, you're doing some big things, you might need a little bit of that to rent, to take care of the creditors. In many instances, they'll ask for, an assignment of life insurance to be able to pay off the loan if you check out of here. Sometimes if you buy your house, what will the bank make you buy? Mortgage protection insurance. 10 times. Buy it or rent it, makes no difference. The younger you are, the cheaper it is. Here's the mystery to the life insurance now. It don't make any difference who we are. Everybody in this room, when you get ready to buy any life insurance, what they do is they take a person your age and your sex with your exact health history, and they put you in a pool with 1,000 others just like you. See, life insurance is a science, and it's an exact science. If they put me in a pool and I will be 55 years old Wednesday, 55, Now, if I want to buy life insurance right now at 55, it costs me a lot more money. What was I thinking? You know, that's the whole lot. You know, the younger the better. I've got some that's been around a long time. But if they put me in a pool, 55-year-old males that have just a touch of diabetes, what does that do? Now, all of a sudden, they know how many's going to die in that pool if the person's got just a touch of diabetes versus taking insulin diabetes. And it's a science. Same way with the ladies. Or say they find out now, I've had some kind of cancer. You know, what does that do to me in the pool? Sometimes the number gets so high, Antonio, the science will not allow you to be profitable, and they will not allow you to buy life insurance. If you can't buy life insurance and you're not healthy enough, which it happens to all of us, just little things can change, buy it on your children or grandchildren and stuff it full of cash. There's some ways to do that and make it work because they're young and insurable. But you're put into that pool. That's why the younger the better. Because a pool of 25-year-old men or women that's in perfect health, the odds of them dying, the numbers of that thousands going to check out is very, very low. That's why it's so much cheaper when you're in your 20s versus your 60s or 70s or 80s. You can buy it into your 80s. And again, the premiums will be $50,000 or $100,000 a year. But if you need it, you need it. That's the way it goes. Now here's the next thing. The last thing in financial planning, living too long. My time's almost up. You live too long or you die too soon. The third is becoming disabled along the way. Or you're not training in a profession where it's going to require you to use some parts of your body. Well, what parts? Well, you're going to have to use your legs maybe. And I'm thankful for some things that there may be some ways to practice without, legs, and that's wonderful. But you're going to use your fingers. What happens if you're in this profession and you can't use your hands? Are you out of work? You better believe you're out of work. Does it not make a difference for you to ensure what you've trained professionally to do? I'm not talking about spend a fortune, but that's a much better investment of your funds than a new flat screen or a new car. And I'm saying all those things, we want flat screens in cars, all that's okay, but you want to ensure your profession. And I'm going to ask you the same thing. Are you not hair surgeons? Didn't you start out that way? What do surgeons do? Every one of them, they're hammered in it from day one. Day one in residency, as quick as you can get it, you get disability insurance because all you have to do is lose a hand, this take place, or have a back issue, not be able to practice, and you've got too much invested. I'll submit to you got too much invested to not look at making sure you take care of yourself if you become disabled along the way. So that's financial planning. Live too long, I'm saving. Doesn't matter the amount, start something. If it's $1, it's a start. Number two, die too soon. Man, I check out of here unexpectedly at least 10 times. Buy it or rent it. Take a look at the numbers. You can find that information out. Number three, become disabled along the way. Find something that will protect you in your specific profession, and you can, which means if you can't practice barbering, you will be able to receive funds or monies. If you can't practice that, even if you could do web design or something else. The wonderful thing about your profession is you're never going to have robo-barber. Never going to have robo-barber. See, my profession is becoming commoditized to where, people can get what I have just by logging into 1-800-INVEST or logging into www.Fidelity Robo-Advisor. Does that matter to me? Absolutely not. Because the wonderful thing I know is this: if I'm doing what I'm telling you all to do, we're going to be ahead of that curve. We're going to do other things. We're going to make our people love us. It doesn't matter what they go pick in their investments. You're going to make them love you no matter how many shops are set up between you and the highway. I heard Renee telling somebody a while ago, it might have been a secret. When she first started in her shop, between her and the interstate there were 8 shops, 8 barbers. And that was a few years ago. She said now between her and the interstate, there are 37 shops. 37. Why do I drive at 5:30 in the morning to get to Renee's try to be the first one there? And my wife took my grandbabies the other day. She couldn't believe how busy they were. People sitting around waiting everywhere. That's a wonderful thing to happen. I'll submit to you, there's a plan. There's something going on there. Somebody's listening. Somebody's engaging. Somebody's appreciating. And somebody's deciding. Lastly, here's the question. Here's the question. I don't know what your question is today. Whatever it is, write it down. But here's one to think about. Can I begin every day with more gratitude than I had yesterday? Can I begin every day more thankful than I was the day before? Can I be grateful for whatever takes place? Now, or grateful in. We'll touch on that just a little bit tomorrow. But let me ask you the question. Are we grateful? Are we thankful? Are we appreciative for everything that comes along? I read somewhere, you know, that the prophet said, in all things giving thanks. All? Wait just a minute. Wait, just all? That should have said the good things. Or maybe just our favorite things. Or maybe just the good news. In all things give thanks. In all things. I'm going to give you an example and I'm done. My time's up, correct? So one of my assistants, her brother-in-law, 42 years of age, found some kind of spot on his pancreas. Is that good? And it's never good. They went and checked it out. Oh, it's not cancer, don't worry about it. So, you know, they kind of let down their guard a little bit. Pancreatic cancer we're talking about, which I know a lot about. So then he went to surgery. They said, you know, come to think, you know, it is cancer. Had surgery. Now let me ask you this, and we were talking about this, what we do with our staff, what you should do with your team. Every day or every time you meet, if it's weekly, let's begin in gratitude. Let's go big. Let's start with positive focus. Can that young man be thankful for pancreatic cancer? Absolutely not. Who's going to be thankful for? Can you be grateful in? So I talked with Denise, my assistant of 18 years. Tell your brother-in-law, he's 42 years of age. It's aggravating. But you know, the thing is, at 42, they did surgery. He was ready to give up and go ahead and check out. You know, at 42 years of age, I'm grateful for him. He'll get to see his grandchildren probably. I mean, are you thankful for, you know, with all the progressions and all the good things that are taking place, are you grateful in those things that we're faced with every day? And does it help you any when you start thinking about in all things give thanks? I'm tickled to death that this happened or that happened. You don't have to be tickled to death, but there's something to be learned with our children, our grandchildren, whoever it may be, to be grateful in every day. Can I find ways to be grateful, more grateful every day? What that does for us, I believe, is it opens up, you know, every opportunity of every day to go and to grow and to get better. Am I thankful when people leave us? Not necessarily, but there's something to be learned. So we have to say, I'm glad that you're aggravated. I'm glad you complained. I'm glad you're leaving. Tell me how I could have made it better. And I appreciate the few minutes I've had with you. I hope it didn't bore you too much. I'll be around for a day or two. If you've got any individual questions, I'll be glad to answer them for you. Our book's almost out. Come to our table. We'll give you a card if you want to sign up for the book. Will be released in about a month. You'll be welcome to do so. I look forward to interjecting with you tomorrow. It's going to be great tomorrow. I'm looking forward to tomorrow. I've been helped already today, just at the beginning of this meeting. Any questions at all? Thank you very much. God bless you.